guess that being a submarine officer really trained you for being a freelancer because you're always underwater. Huh?
Welcome back to This Week in No Code. I'm your host, JJ Englert, and I'm here with my co host, David Pal, and we have another exciting week for you in No Code. On this show, we're going to be talking about Hatch, a no code web design platform for tech curious creators, 5 examples of GPT-4 vision, LangChain Integration, a LangSmith Overview, and then we're going to be bringing on a special guest who goes by the name of Web Bae, who just won the Webflow Creator of the Year. He's going to be coming on the show to talk about Webflow's latest conference, their ecosystem, what it's like to be building for Webflow, and all the things he's doing in that ecosystem. Really excited about that. But before we get there, let me pass it over to my co-host, David Pal, to start with our no-code news of the week.
Thank you, JJ. Really excited to talk about some of these new tools that are coming out. It seems like every week we've got a new set of tools, something going on. This one is really interesting. Hatch, a serious team of founders starting this. They're hopping on into the no code platform. I think they come from the game development world. So it's interesting how they think about web design. They are talking about how they're empowering tech curious creators, which is an interesting phrase, I think. When I use the platform, it feels like this is a great platform for kids. This is like their first entrance into no code or coding. This editor that they use, of course, like most no code tools, you can start from a template. You can start from something as cool as what you see here, a portfolio page, really easy to put things happening. They do allow for some maybe non-standard integrations or interactions. Like if you can see the screen now, the background is spinning, which is an interesting feature to have. My brain did not use the spin feature in any way that made any sense compared to this. But what it felt like to me using this editor was what would happen if you tried to build a web page from a Word document. Like you're kind of starting at a page size, you're dropping things on, freeform, pushing things around. There are serious guardrails on it right now. And I think that's why they're aiming for the tech curious creator, not someone who's looking to be super technical, not someone who's looking to build maybe a full web app, but just something to put out online. It's an interesting option. What's really interesting about this is how they add interactions. You'll notice that there isn't a actions tab, but what happens instead is if you click an element on the screen and click the lightning button, you'll see that it allows for some AI interaction. So, JJ, why don't you click on that lightning bolt
Right
underneath?
there.
Yeah.
Copy.
And you can see here, click that new AI interactions. You can just describe what you want it to do. Now, when I was playing around with this, I found it really hard to figure out what my options are. I don't think there's a database, so there isn't really a way to do that just now that create a sign up. But on a hover, you can have it rotate on a button click, and you can tag elements by using the at symbol. You can say at this element, then do something. It's an interesting way to build workflows. It allows people to engage a little bit more natively without knowing anything about code. They do allow you to add some things, right? You can see it rotates. It's a little, these are weird interactions. Uh, but, it's a different framework. I think it's a very simplified version of a bubble, a glide, a flutter flow. But I see the value in being able to allow any creator without any knowledge to actually build something and feel like they're empowered to do something cool. The learning curve here is different than Bubble. Like it's
Yeah.
not about being very technical. It's just knowing what the options are.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool.
I've enjoyed it so far, like, just hopping in there for the first time, it literally takes no time to get started, right?
Yeah.
And it's very, like, Gen X or, like, the latest of, like, these crazy websites that are unique and they stand out and lots of color. Like, it feels like it's going for that audience or, like, a link in bio, like, a portfolio, like, I wanna be, like, big and bold, right? And it allows you to do
Yeah.
this in a very, very simple way, more simple than Wix and whatnot. And as you saw from the AI thing that we were just doing is that, like, it's all prompt based of like, okay, you want to do this here, just tell me what it is, tell me what it is, and it's just you're just feeding like an AI prompt and it's just generating that JavaScript for you, which is interesting. So
Yeah.
the learning, you just get started right away. Like you don't need to create an account or anything, you just get going into it. And I also like that too, is like immediately, we explored this platform for 20, 30 minutes. We know like you can build stuff on it and it's pretty easy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think this is the first version. Like, we have to give them some credit. Like,
Yeah.
these other platforms have been around for a decade or more, right? Some of them are really old, and so of course they cover more surface area. So I'm interested to see how this evolves, but I would keep looking at this.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic platform. Another one of the things that is just popping up in this really crowded no-code landscape. Speaking of crowded and busy, ChatGPT-4 Vision in your pocket. It's crazy stuff. Being able to show present an X-ray to it and or prescriptions and medical reports and be able to answer questions about those things in a clear and logical way. It's super powerful. If you want to feed it some kind of like a design, like if you want to wireframe something and then send a picture or take a picture of the wireframe and have it convert it for you, that's great. Or if you want to like show a design and have it create a database structure for you, ChatGPT for Vision is really just opening up so many different possibilities. And it's like a Google supercharge of like everything you'd want from Google because it allows you to be highly personalized of like this is my image. Tell me about this image. Whereas like Google won't know that information, right? Like it's just like unless other people had that same X-ray done, they don't know, right? And so this just allows you to get even more personalized and get instant feedback, which is exactly what I think people want these days is personalized instant feedback of how they can do things better and faster. And, Bard, I don't know if it's capable of seeing vision yet, but I know that ChatGPT 4 is really kind of bringing it to new heights with these new features. It's just it feels like it's the new internet. Like you have this new technology where it's just unlocking so many things that you don't realize how big and awesome it is, right? I wasn't around really for like the start of the internet, right? Like I wasn't actively in those days, but I feel like it's really big and it at that level of magnitude.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting that the internet used to be the truth, right? Whatever we read on the internet, and this is always like back to fifth grade library research.
Mhm.
You can't use just anything on the internet as a source of truth. I think this is the same thing that's going to happen with a lot of these AI tools. Some of these examples, someone was talking about, being able to take a photo of a meal like on a plate and telling
Yeah.
you how many calories there are. Sounds really cool. It's great that
Wow.
you can probably recognize
Or
what
also recipes of how to create
thing,
that and all
yeah,
that
how
kind of
to
stuff.
create it. But, there are some edge cases that you need more information about.
Yeah.
Well, what was it fried in? Was it oil? Was it air fried?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you're going to tell. You need to give it some more prompting. And I think people are going to take the output of this and go, that's the truth. Why, hey,
Yeah.
this is the answer. It's
It's close. It's
we're gonna
not there.
learn that it's not always right, and
Yeah.
but the average person is gonna say, well, that's good enough. But really we don't want good enough.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's close. It's not there yet, but LangChain has another awesome integration. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, David?
Yeah. So early days AI, as it was kind of really the initial hype of AI, LangChain came up and built out a structure for people to build these complex chains of interactions. Right. A lot of what we see happening behind the scenes in ChatGPT happens in stages. And there was a huge AI agent hype that came out as well. This idea that You can ask it a question, hey, go do something for me, and then an agent would be able to act on your behalf, following your instructions, using things like LangChain to stack these things together. Well, LangChain is a language, basically. It's a framework built on Python. In order to access LangChain and its kind of core fundamentals, you need some code knowledge. And I would love to be able to use some more LangChain tools, just learning some Python with the help of ChatGPT to edit the actual Python. But
Hmm.
learning how to deploy an app on Python and connect everything is still a little bit more code than no code for me.
Yeah.
And so I could learn it, or I could use some of these tools that are coming out, like this. I don't know how to pronounce the platform, N8N. We're going to call it Nathan.
Well done.
The Nathan IO LangChain integration. They're now natively supporting LangChain, which is going to allow so many people to build really complex and tailored LLM applications and more into their existing frameworks of automation, and is like a Make. It's like Zapier. It's a little bit more technical than those. Probably an 8 on the not on the technical non-technical scale, 8 leaning towards technical.
Hmm.
But this is going to allow people like me, who I was building an app that needed AI, that needed an LLM, but needed some Python, and I just didn't. It was kind of out of reach, and this would have helped solve that problem. So I'm curious to see how this allows other people using automation tool internal apps at companies now using more fundamental LangChain systems. Really excited.
Yeah. Yeah. N8N is a, really, I've heard great things for those that are wanting to build complex automations
Yeah.
faster. You integrate APIs, you tell it, based on this, do this, create this, send it here, etc. They have a community of over 50,000 members. You get the full source code for that, and you can connect to databases and UI, all that kind of stuff. And I've heard it's quite scalable, and it also
Yeah.
has that visual drag and drop builder. And so I've heard of folks kind of leaving Bubble to use this as the middleman to process workflows and to create things much quicker from APIs, and then to send it back to a database or front end from there. So I like that. I like the power, the scalability of that. The LangChain integration, I think you have up to 398 pre-built connectors for automated workflows,
Yeah. There's a
and you
lot.
combine this with LangChain and you get so much more. So it feels like a really big integration for this platform that's really exciting to see. And I love their visual like drag and drop builder that they have and like
Yeah.
how easy that is. And they still have simple debugging and monitoring and AI automations. You could do a lot with this. So it's another great kind of workflow AI builder. I feel like we're seeing a lot of workflow AI builders launch these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think this goes back to like half of this no code world is business automation,
Yeah.
right? I think a lot of the no code world is built about problem solving, and most problem is eliminating work for somebody, right? It's not just about, building an app for somebody else. It's, I want to do my job faster. I want to do something for myself faster. Automation kind of solves that. And I think we're going to see even more specifically built in the AI world around agents, building your own agents, building tasks, understanding how to do workflows, human in the loop kind of stuff. It's going to be
Hmm.
interesting to see how all of these come up. I mean, even LangChain has their own LangChain builder. It's kind of like this N8N version, but just kind of focused on LangChain chains, stitching them all together. I think we're going to see a lot of visual builders, canvases. Uh, I think it's easier to work in. It has to be.
Yeah. One example of what you could do with something like this is a workflow that integrates web scraping and NLP functionalities. So it uses HTML parsing to extract links, HTTP requests to fetch essay content, and then AI-based summarization using ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo to kind of quickly consume that information and to provide summarization based on a large scale of content that you may want to digest. It's really powerful being able to digest information, content that quickly and to say, hey, give me a summary based on, this vein of how I want to learn it or how I want to do it. It's like I've done it in a lot of different use cases and it's more practical than not to really kind of understand something quickly. So I love that aspect of it. Staying on in the LangChain world, we also have LangSmith, which is an all-in-one developer platform for every phase of the application lifecycle. So you can build and deploy LLM applications with confidence, offers full visibility into the entire chain sequence of a calls, allows users to identify the source of errors in real time. Features include nested traces, prompt level visibility, real-time insights, and a playground mode. So that just seems like another tool for the LangChain ecosystem to build LMM apps with confidence. And that also seems like, if we're seeing a lot of workflow and AI builders, we're also seeing a lot of LLM builders to go with this whole boom of AI as well.
Yeah, it's just all about accessibility, right? Like if you think about LangChain, they are an open source tool, right? They need a
Yeah.
way to make some money. These are ways that they make money. But more importantly, if they want to be the de facto tool, more people have to use them and it has to be easier for them to use. And
Yeah.
so that's where tools like LangSmith help get up faster, get things out into the world, get people testing, turning things into production. It's like this N8N version as well, just without all of the other integrations, which is a really cool option. And so I'd love to see, some of these native apps being built in the bubble world, in Flutterflow, not just general AI, but really core and fundamental models and modules that we can use to build very specific applications.
It feels like these LLM builders and Webflow and AI automation tools, I think, are going to be one of the first things that bring traditional programmers more into the no-code ecosystem of like, all right, I don't need a no-code tool like Bubble, but what I do need is LML builders or workflow automation tools to like make this process easier. And then they get started building in that no-code kind of drag and drop way and then see the speed of it. And then maybe are then more open to other no-code builders because of such, because it's like, it feels like this is not a step down where no code could somewhat be perceived as that. It's just like, oh, this is the tool to do this latest technology. I'm going to use that. And there's no negative connotations associated with that yet.
Could be. I kind of have a slightly different take on it. I think the AI world will and developers will be taken over by the Copilot model. I
Yeah.
think Microsoft came out and announced that Copilot is now over $100 million in ARR, which
Wow.
is its own company, right? Like that's
Yeah.
its own public company. That world exists, but in the AI landscape, these models are black boxes. And so it really becomes kind of challenging to troubleshoot because you don't know if the output is an error or if the output is because of poor prompting, or if the output is because of something didn't hook up properly. And so using some of these structured guardrail systems will allow them to test things to see, is it me that did something wrong? Is it the output? Is it the prompt? Kind of eliminating the number of variables that it could be causing this issue.
Yeah.
Another good point. Some of these tools, like these no code builders, allow you to test different models and frameworks, open source versus open AI. If you want to use the LLM world, the llama models, instead of just using the GPT-4 models, Da Vinci model, or whatever model you're using, this allows you to expand. Probably not what open AI wants you to do,
Yeah.
because they want everything going through them, but it's an interesting set of tools.
We have Keegan here, our special guest for today. So let's welcome him to the stage. Hey, Keegan, thank you so much for joining us, aka Web Bae.
Yeah,
I
yeah. What's up,
love
guys?
the tag, the handle. Thank you
Web
for joining
Bae.
us today.
Of
You
course.
are out of the Bay, right? San Francisco?
Yes. Yeah, I just moved from San Francisco to Oakland last week, so you might, I don't know, there's some shipping boxes behind me, but yeah.
Awesome. We would love to know more about your thoughts on Webflow.
About you first, but
Give,
yes, we'll hop into
give us a
the.
little bit of
We
intro
don't want to
about
hop
you,
you
and then
right into the hot seat. You just got here.
get into Webflow. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm really excited for Webflow. I've been using Webflow for about 2 years now,
Okay.
and I was in the military. I was a submarine officer for 10 years, and that's kind of like my background story. When I got out of the military, I was trying to come up with whatever I could do to not work a 9 to 5 job. And I was programming games in Unity a lot. And my roommate was like, oh, check out Webflow, by the way. And so I did that, started going on Upwork and, making like, I don't know, $12 an hour on Upwork for about 6 months while I learned the tool.
Hmm.
And then just got really just really enjoyed it. Loved Webflow University and started seeing more and more success and getting clients and stuff. And that got me into coding. So I did a lot of code, and yeah, and then
JavaScript stuff, right?
yeah. So I started learning JavaScript because a lot of my clients were asking for more advanced functionality that Webflow couldn't handle natively. And so just started making content around the stuff that I figured out in JavaScript. And that's my little story. Yeah.
So 2 years ago, you knew no code. You were
Yeah.
building things in Unity, or you have a little bit of a coding background?
I'd studied electrical engineering in college. I had 2 coding courses that were C++ that I got like C's in. I didn't do very well. I'd always wanted to learn coding, but I was very much stuck in tutorial hell and I couldn't copy paste my way out of a paper bag kind of thing. I would say I knew I started, yeah, pretty much from zero, but I had a little bit of a technical background.
Which is even more impressive that you just won Webflow's Creator of the Year award, 2 years later, building for this ecosystem. So, I mean, hats off to you for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt really nice. I'm very proud of that. So
Yeah, as you should be. What kind of stuff do you create for the Webflow ecosystem?
memes, man, anything. I like creating anything like the code. If I find out how to do something in code, I try to share that. I'm on Twitter. I'm pretty active on Twitter. Something I really like doing is just responding to people's questions. I started in the forums. That's how I started my YouTube channel, was just like responding to people in the forums and practicing making video and all this stuff. But over time, it's just like anything that feels relevant. I'll try to start making apps, try to start making Chrome extensions, all sorts of different stuff. So yeah, a lot of people right now are whining or complaining about some of the new UI changes. The text is really small, or they don't like the color. And so I'm like, oh, we could build an app or an extension that changes it. So just look for little opportunities like that.
Yeah.
To build funny things.
Are you looking at the community giving back as just, hey, you learn so much from the community, this is kind of just the cycle of giving in the ecosystem, or is it
It's a bit
fun?
like that. It's also, a bit selfish in that, like, it's self-promotion, and any little tool you build or help people with is a way to market my own brand and
Sure.
do things like that. I take a lot of business cues from FinSuite. If you guys are familiar with them, they offer a ton of free tools for the community, and just like, I love what they do. I do work for them as well. And
Okay.
so I really look up to Joe Krug and what he's built with that, and how he like just releases a lot of free stuff to the community, and that, in turn brings a lot of leads in and things like that. So that's kind of the route that's the approach I take.
Yeah. Where do you see Webflow on the spectrum between traditional coding and no code? And how long do you think it took you to get like pretty proficient in Webflow before you're like, all right, I can build just about anything?
It took me more than 6 months, I would say, to be like, I can build anything. I was doing Upwork projects and still didn't really know how Flexbox kind of worked, which
Yeah.
I don't recommend. I had some pretty stressful. My brother and I went to Maui, and I was working like 10-hour days, which was definitely pretty miserable, and I would do it differently if I could. I think about a year in, I kind of reached a point where, like, if you send me a Figma design file, I can figure out how to build this for web in Webflow.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
That's quite an investment a year in. Is
Yeah,
it because there's just a lot of CSS and in just different like terminology that you need to learn from that language, or why do you think it's so long?
good question. It's because, Webflow as a native platform, I guess is quite limited in many respects. And so, if you want to start integrating external APIs, or you want to use third-party, JavaScript libraries, that's not something a no-coder, like, they don't teach you that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. I lucked out, actually. The VA paid for me to go to a coding boot camp. I didn't mention this. That was probably my little, kind of advantage breakthrough that I
Yeah.
had that isn't available to everybody, is that the VA like paid for a $20,000 course for me to go for free because of my military service. So I was really lucky there, and it was a huge leg up for me in JavaScript world. And
Yeah.
the background in Webflow, 6 months, all of a sudden I already knew HTML and CSS. A lot of the people in the coding bootcamp I was in, they couldn't write HTML or CSS to save their life. So a lot of their projects just kind of looked like garbage. My stuff always looks like garbage too. I'm not a great designer, but yeah, it's so hard. There's so much to know.
It's interesting that you say you're not a good designer and still doesn't always look great. When I think about Webflow, I always think about a well-polished, highly designed, like, it's got all the bells and whistles, all the interactions, everything in there. but you're saying that's it's not like a default in Webflow that makes it look good, I guess.
Yeah, it's a comparison trap. There's so many talented designers in the Webflow ecosystem, so it's very easy for me to look at somebody else and say like, "Wow, I wish I could, design something like that." If I get a good Figma file, I can turn out a pretty good design. Like I
Yeah.
said, I feel pretty confident with that. But if you ask me like, "Hey, can you make this Figma file?" I'm gonna be like, "Okay, let me go get some inspiration and
Yeah.
do what I can." But still just the little things that can make a UI look so pretty, they tend to escape me.
With Webflow, Dave and I are both Bubble pros, right? And so we've gone through this journey. And so, Bubble, we can build just about anything, any kind of app, mobile app, etc. What are Webflow's limitations? Like I personally see it as, a front end builder, blogs, e-commerce sites, things like that. It really excels in. What am I seeing it right? Am I limited? Can you just expand it more? Where is that?
Yeah, it excels for sure in a marketing website. Like that's their bread and
Yeah.
butter is making a marketing website. But large enterprise companies seem to love it because they feel very familiar with the CMS. It's just the CMS is really well done in
Okay.
how your content management kind of, like somebody on the marketing team can go in and update the website without calling on a developer. Whereas Bubble, I don't think that's really the case. I don't
Yeah.
have extensive experience with Bubble, but my roommate built his whole startup in Bubble, so I do understand that you can do anything with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
that makes sense. So, CMS, content, all that kind of stuff. What kind of stuff are you doing with it to like kind of push it beyond that?
To push it beyond it, we are doing like we're integrating authentication, like third-party authentication, whether
Okay.
that's Auth0 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of API integrations, so pulling data in from an external source and then pushing it out.
Yeah.
What sucks with Webflow is you don't have access to any server-side stuff, so you can't store. You need a
Mhm.
middleware to translate anything. So
Mhm.
anytime that you want to start talking to another service, you have to spin up a whole nother server for that. And Webflow did release Logic, which was hopeful, and it actually is pretty cool, but it isn't quite there to like do what you can do with Bubble.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
What kind of things
Almost
are
there, Future.
Yeah.
yeah, like what does the logic allow you to do? Like click this button, save something to a database and go here, that kind of stuff?
No, Logic allows you like on form submission, send data to Airtable.
Okay.
On I think form
Uh,
submission is one of the main triggers, but you can make any HTTP request you want. So that's why I say it's like pretty powerful.
Well, it's
I don't know where
Still
those
have
balloons came
it.
from.
Wrong screen. It's JJ. It's JJ's birthday. Happy birthday to JJ.
Hey, happy birthday, JJ. Is it your birthday?
It is, yeah.
Oh, right on.
Thank you.
What, any big plans?
I'm talking to you.
Lucky me, lucky you.
So it excels in, marketing websites, CMS stuff. The familiarity is there, but it's still not a web app builder. You're not using this for it. You don't have real good access to the API. Like in Bubble, we could just open up the API and get any APIs, send APIs, do whatever we want with those APIs. Is that just not true with Webflow? It's a bit harder to work with.
They're opening up with their new APIs.
Okay.
It doesn't
Mm.
have everything you would probably want,
Yeah.
but it does have a lot of stuff that you can do. So, and they got the new CTO from Shopify, and he seems to be all about APIs. I've talked to him
Yeah.
twice. And so I think we're going to see Webflow open, like rather than try to build out Logic and kind of like a Zapier or a Make kind of functionality themselves, they're just going to let the third-party developers do it for them, which I think is a good call. And it gets back to your original question of like, how is Webflow doing? And that when I was at Webflow Conf, the overall consensus is like people are happy with Webflow sticking to like HTML and CSS, and then allowing other people to build the cool functionality on top of that. I guess the interlinking with external stuff.
Yeah, interesting. I think that's a pretty common model of someone learns one of the tools really well, let the other tools keep doing what they're doing, spend the resources at Webflow making these experiences as great as possible instead of trying to tiptoes into other things. Right? Like you would never expect Zapier to build a front end builder like Webflow to try to compete. Let everyone kind of stay in their own lane, which is a good thing, I think, because everyone gets to pick what they need.
Yeah, it's fun to build in Webflow. I find it's
Yeah.
just how reactive it is and interactive everything is.
When you were deciding to go into Webflow, did you look at other tools? I mean, your roommate built a startup in Bubble. Did you look, hey, let me go build something else, or just
I
Webflow?
had a client ask me to build an internal tool for them in Bubble, and I was so lost and I got
That's
so
weird.
flustered. I spent like a day kind of doing basically like a feasibility study for them on can I do this, and my abilities were just not there at the time. I'm sure I could do it now, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the right job for me at the time. So your question is about, have I looked at other tools? I mentioned Unity when Framer started. I mean, it still has a lot of hype. I've kind of stuck to Webflow. I think Webflow University is really what pulled me in, just
Hmm.
the value of their content and how humorous it was and how comfortable I felt with Twitter and those kinds of things. So I just kind of got into it and then realized, well, once you start creating content around it, then it kind of becomes your world.
Hmm.
And yeah, I often think like, well, JavaScript is a huge ecosystem and I could start, generating content around that now. But
Yeah.
it's fun though. I've like made good friends in the Webflow space, and there's always challenges to solve and they're iterating on their product. So yeah.
Can you
Are you worried at all about like sticking all your eggs in the Webflow basket?
No,
No.
I'm not. Are you worried about being a bubble fanatic?
a little
How do
bit,
you feel about that?
a little
Well,
bit.
yeah, I mean, there's just a little bit of platform risk, right? There's always the if they start making the wrong move, if something changes, if the ecosystem shifts and a new tool comes out or a different tool comes out. We saw this issue come up with pricing, right? They priced a lot of people out when they changed their pricing
Yeah,
model.
yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone
it
knows
sounds like
about bubble
even you
price.
heard about it.
Oh,
Everyone knows
yeah.
about bubble
I
price.
Everyone
remember
heard about this pricing fiasco.
Yeah.
If
they're
they
not the
make
only ones.
mistakes.
There's a lot of tech companies. Yeah, Unity
Yeah.
just had their whole
Unity had a
pricing
problem.
fiasco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like David said, it's your platform risk is the thing, right? And like we have built our ecosystem around one tool and Bubble, and it's been good to us. But there are limitations of that, of like it's a limited ecosystem, right? Like it's not, they say 3 million bubblers, right? But it's, you don't really interact with 3 million bubblers. A
Mhm.
lot of people are stuck just trying to learn, kind of like you for that first day, and don't really get past there and get into the ecosystem. What do you think, like going back to the Webflow ecosystem, like, what is like a good video for you? Like you put out to your YouTube channel and say, man, that did well for me. Is that like 500 views? Is that 10,000 views? That, and then also, do you sell products? You sell products as well to the ecosystem, right?
I have a course. I use a Webflow e-commerce tool for
Okay.
that, and it did better than I thought. My course, I felt like, okay, I'm going to release this thing and like 5 people will buy it. I just
Yeah.
hit my 200th purchase this week, which was cool. So, but
Congrats.
now the course
Okay.
is a bit obsolete because Webflow updated the UI. So it's
Ah,
it's that
yeah,
whole thing.
yeah.
Let's
So
see.
it seems similar in that way. Like if I put out a bubble course, that's kind of the number that I would expect. But it's like it's not the 100,000, 10,000, like that you would expect because there's a lot of Webflowers out there, right? So are other Webflow creators getting courses in the tens of thousands or products in the tens of thousands of sold, or do you think it's just so saturated that it's really just about your audience?
I don't know. I do think it's about the audience.
Yeah,
I would say there's Webflow courses at all price ranges now.
yeah,
Depending on what you want, you can probably find it. You talked about like what's a good video for me. It's right now like my most recent video got 1,000 views in the first 24 hours, and that's great for me.
yeah,
And I'm just kind of linear. It goes up, and I try to release a video a week, and I don't know. I'd love to go viral, but it's the videos I
Mhm.
put out right now are not viral style videos, so I
Yeah,
understand that I probably won't go viral. But there's a lot of people out there making content that gets a lot more views than mine, so I can probably take some notes and try to improve in that regard.
yeah. You kind of you referred to us a little bit earlier of like going to the JavaScript ecosystem because maybe it's a little bit bigger, right? Is like, are you feeling like the Webflow ecosystem might be small in that way, and like the ceiling might be closer than you would want, or how are you feeling with that?
What I like about Webflow is like I feel like people know who I am.
Yeah.
I know who other people are, and I don't get
You have a
lost.
community,
Yeah, it's possible to get that with JavaScript as well. I dip
sure.
my toe into that pool as well, but it's competitive, and the coders there are a lot more. They have a lot more experience than I do. So for
Yeah,
me to be in a Webflow space and say like, oh, I'm the guy who codes in Webflow, I can have a lot more confidence standing on these two legs than I can, you know, against like a Wes Boss or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Who I really
Building
look up
for
to.
developers is pretty ruthless.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I will just do this myself. It has to be excellent and 100% done and correct and optimized for anyone to take it seriously. Where Webflow, it's like, hey, yeah, we're all learning all of this together as they evolve, right? It's not really the language.
Yeah,
That's
and
really
there's a lot of simple problems that you can solve with JavaScript. That's my bread and butter is people want to do these things in Webflow, and they know that I'm that guy that can do it. So
yeah.
as far as like picking your niche and staying in it and going with that, it's working out all right for me. Yeah.
So do you plan to stay in it then?
Oh yeah, man, the Webflow conference, I had so much fun. Yeah, I plan to just do whatever is interesting to me and I enjoy. So I don't feel like limited or constrained by Webflow, I would say at the moment. So feels like there's still a ton to learn.
Yeah. What do you think about their conference? You know, like Bubble's having their conference for the first time ever this year after 10 years. We're looking forward to that, but we don't really know what to expect. What did you like about Webflow's conference last week? It looked amazing from all the pictures. What was your kind of experience?
Yeah, my experience was one, I had fun. I got to see all my Twitter pals, so that's always fun.
Yeah.
It was smaller than the one last year, which I appreciated. They're doing this on the road thing, which if I was them, I would be like, oh man, so much travel, and I wouldn't be a fan of that. But for me, I can just show up in San Francisco to the main event and all is good. So that was nice for me. What else? It's cool. Like, the CTO, so Alan, Brian is in charge of Webflow Labs now, and the CEO Vlad. They're all like hanging out throughout the show and introduce themselves to me rather than me like oh, I've always wanted to meet you. It's just
over it.
yeah. So it has definitely the community vibe. Emily's doing a really good job of curating that community, which I
And you
like.
say the road show is like they're just doing a lot of one of these in different cities throughout the United States and the world?
Yeah, this week they're in Chicago and New York, just doing like small info sessions and that sort of thing, and then they're going to London. So there's 4 locations.
Cool.
But the SF was the flagship event where they did the keynote and announced everything.
What
I
about
want to shift a little gears a little bit. I want to talk about just freelancing in general. You've made this transition from military, and thank you for your service, into freelancing. Got to be different. I'm sure there's some things to be learned. How has your experience been building a freelance book of business over the last couple of years?
Yeah, freelancing's rough. Thank you for asking. It's really hard.
My condolences. Yeah.
I still don't make as much money as the military paid me, right?
Yeah.
I do have a bit of more freedom in my schedule. Well, a lot more, but I do still work very hard. So in some ways it's just different. In some ways it's better. In some ways it's like, yeah, really different.
Yes, that being a submarine officer really trained you for being a freelancer because you're always underwater. No, maybe.
Yeah. And we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. No, that's so it's, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people listening get into NoCode because they want, and similar to you, they want to get away from the 9 to 5. They want to work for themselves. They want to control their schedule. They're starting this freelance world, maybe on the side of a 9 to 5 to kind of build this book of business until they leave and do this full time. What would your suggestions be to them? And don't say don't do it. Well, you could, I guess.
No, something that I've really enjoyed over the last couple months is working, like doing white label JavaScript work for an agency. It keeps me a lot more grounded as far as like, how much income I'm going to have each month. I'm fortunate that I can be in a spot where, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. So having a savings really helped me embark on the freelancer journey, I guess, confidently.
Yeah.
Because it took longer than I expected. I definitely overestimated my own ability. I did all right. Yeah, I survived and made it through. I think like starting to make content sooner rather than later helped, even if your confidence isn't fully there, because you just learn all these skills and you learn them even deeper than you would have. So I think both working on Upwork and creating content really helped me to develop my skills to a point where I could get out of tutorial hell a lot faster than if I was just, doing this as a side project. I do talk to people who have been doing freelancing as a side project for like 8 to 10 years, and they're still, their skills still aren't where they feel comfortable to do it full time, I guess.
Interesting.
So, hmm.
When-
So taking the jump, you'd say jump in with both feet, like just go in and do it and learn and build this business, but do it with this safety net and cushion of, building up some savings so you have some ramp time.
I mean, that seemed to, it worked out all right for me. Not, there were a lot of days that were stressful. I can't say like, yes, do that or don't do that.
Yeah, I think a
Say,
big thing is diversification, right? You can't just rely on any one income stream. It changes every single month. I'm lucky enough to have a handful of them, and some months one will be great, and then some months it will be zero. I just can't rely on that one thing because you just never know, right? And so, David and I, we have our own bubble agency. We're doing a lot of work there, but that's also just not our own thing. And we're seeing that these deals take a long time to get, and we might lose it for a million different reasons. It could take 2 to 3 weeks of talking. You're ready for a scope. You scoped it, and then, oh, I'm not on the project anymore. I got moved from the project. Sorry, we're gonna find you another. So there's like a
Yeah.
million different things, and it's like we have to have like 5 to 10 in our pipeline to have a consistent 1 or 2 each month, I feel like, because it's an odds game in that world, and it's hard to get 5 or 10 in a pipeline in an agency work and then also create content on the side, all that kind of stuff. But I feel that allows you to have more security in an overall income stream because you're not relying on any one.
yeah, and that's why I like working for people who run agencies, because you guys deal with all that crap. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's a lot. I'm glad to have a partner with it,
Yeah.
and there's a lot that we go into it. But at the same time, it allows you to have more control in that way. I think as you continue to build more content and get your reputation out there, more people will just come to you for this kind of work, and it will probably just naturally lead into an agency for you if that's something that you want to do. I feel like you're doing a lot of the right things. You're just in so many different areas and have already created a name for yourself. So I'm really excited to see where you're going to take it next.
yeah. Thanks. It's hard to know. I'm working on a JavaScript for Webflow developers course. It's kind of like the big idea in my head right now.
That's cool.
Perfect, right? It
Yeah.
seems like the next thing. What about DevLink? Like, can you just give us like a quick, is this cool? Like, it seems really awesome. Like, to bring React components into Webflow. React is awesome, and then Webflow is awesome for design. You bring those together, it seems like it's a perfect marriage.
Yeah, right now what DevLink can do is you can take stuff out of Webflow into React, but that's the the new thing they announced is taking React components into Webflow. And the demo that Bryant did was really cool. And I was trying to pick his brain about it at the after party. Essentially, like being able to run JavaScript in Designer is something that would enable a lot of stuff, but right now isn't quite possible without a Chrome extension or something like that, or their new extensions API, but it's still limited. And so what he was showing to me kind of suggested that there's this, if that opens up, that if you're a React developer, what you could do is just build React components that work with the Webflow CMS and execute in Designer so that the designers can change it how they want. And yeah, so it's exciting. But DevLink, I don't, as far as what I've seen, like when they announced it last year and playing with it myself, it's cool, but I don't think people still know quite what to do with it yet.
It's not quite there. It's like it's at the very beginning. It has a lot of potential, but they still got a lot of work to do. I mean, it seems like they are really good in design and just are okay with that and are just staying in their lane and kind of letting everyone else come to them in that way. Does that feel right?
I think they're pushing to pull in developers like that. That is there. They're sticking to the what got them successful in the first place.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see the developer ecosystem expand a lot in the next year.
If you can give a prediction for Webflow in the ecosystem, where do you think we see it 2 years from now?
A prediction, yeah. And I don't think it's going to feel that much different. I think you're just going to see a lot of third parties come in and build apps that exist in Webflow and solve little problems that users have. So I think it's going to be a lower barrier to entry for people who want to make more app-like functionality. So yeah, I think you are going to see definitely a lot of that.
Do you think they're going to continue to go into the enterprise space and like really cater to those folks, or do you think they're still going to keep it with the $10 a crowd, a month folk?
I think enterprise is driving the business for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're seeing that in all no-code tools right now. I mean, in Bubble and all these other tools, it's like it's how quick they get to that enterprise customer. even if that means a higher learning. That's the hard part, is they need to be able to get people started day one into the ecosystem. So reduce the complexity, but then they need to build for the complexity of enterprise, which, makes it hard.
Yeah, they have some huge clients doing like full on web apps. Orange Theory was there at WebflowConf, and they have a pretty cool tool. In FinSuite, we've been working with a lot of larger clients too that have just full like custom functionalities. So it's definitely possible and it's doable. And each time they sign on a new enterprise client, I'm sure the learning base just expands,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah, I think it's also good for us as developers, where it's like, if we're learning, we want this to be able to take us far into the enterprise space, because that means there's more room for our career and growth, right? I'm really excited about that. I teach a lot at that professional level for Bubble, that where like we're in the enterprise, we run teams. I previously ran a team of 5 Bubble developers for a VC-backed startup and really took it far with them.
Wow.
So I love to see that, but there's still not that many people at that level, not many bubblers at that level of like that really professional working full-time enterprise. Do you think that there is a good amount of Webflowers in that professional enterprise, or do you think they're still trying to feed that market?
I think it's still trying to feed.
Yeah.
And just to, being involved in the community over the last 2 years, I've seen a lot of people just go from I don't know any code to I know code. I think Webflow, what's cool about Webflow is that it encourages you in the right way to take on some code, and in a way that like you can still like earn an income while you're learning stuff.
Yeah, you're getting
So,
paid by the client for the feature
yeah.
to learn the thing. Yeah, it's great. That's really cool.
Yeah. So it's a unique opportunity in that respect. I think if you want to learn JavaScript, then it's a really good place to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot of people do it. So yeah.
That happens. We see that in the Bubble world as well. Lots of people learning the JavaScript snippet to add in here on the button click, and
Plugin.
it's really pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, there's one plugin that you can see the number of installs, and it's like 10 times higher than any other community built plugin, and it's pretty cool. It's this JavaScript plugin.
Yeah, it's a JavaScript that lets you just run JavaScript kind of anywhere in the client, within Bubble. And so what is that, like 100,000 downloads? It's like a
No, I
lot of
think it's at like 700,000.
700,000 downloads. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
like you can really make it, just throw in JavaScript anywhere into your editor to like kind of really make that happen. And a lot of us use it in a lot of different ways. But that's like, I feel like the limit of where we kind of feel comfortable is like we'll throw in snippets and use it in that way. But yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Keegan, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you more, getting to know your story. Welcome to the ecosystem. I'm excited to follow along with you. If there's any kind of collaboration that you would want to partner with David and I, Bubble, Webflow contest, whatever, let us know. We're always around. This podcast, we just like to discuss the no-code industry at large, all the things that are happening, tools that we should learn, context from those creators of those tools of how that ecosystem is. Is that something we should, continue to invest in, or all that kind of stuff, right? Like this market is changing so fast. And so we just love having experts like you come in to say, yeah, things are pretty good in Webflow, holding it down, still going more, now, still got a lot of potential. So love to hear it. And thanks again for taking the time to come on today.
Yeah, really fun. I love how curious you guys are, and it's so fun to just be like, oh, we're Bubble guys, because I'm so stuck in this Webflow universe,
Yeah.
So just to hear how you guys are navigating the journey too is really valuable to me. So thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. Always feel free to stay in touch. If you have any questions or anything, we're here to help. But great to have you on, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
And people can find you on Twitter. Is that the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, Twitter is Web Bae. That's where I'm probably
Bae.
most active.
Love
and then
it.
my YouTube is Web Bae as well. And happy birthday, JJ. Hope you have a wonderful day. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll make sure to put all your handles in our description.
Yeah, have fun. This was really fun. I'm happy to do more if you guys ever want. So let me know.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Later.
See you, man.
See ya.
Awesome. He's very similar to us, but in different tools, different ecosystems. I love to hear his thoughts of like the Webflow ecosystem. I feel like that's the biggest competitor to a Bubble, of like they have massive funding, massive community.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought they were building more teeth to it, meaning like more power, more interactions, more like data, logic, the dev link. It seems like that's still very early, and they're still really like Keegan was saying, like a great front end builder for CMS, marketing pages, excellent SEO scores, really quick. I feel like that's the bread and butter, and they're slowly getting away from that.
And
or
I
introduce
don't
them
I
more?
don't know if they need to. I mean, they're building a good business. I think they need big clients with big dollars to give them a reason to shift
Yeah.
into something else. And I think they have to be aware of the users who are not React developers that are trying to build in Bubble. Yeah, so I think it's an interesting model. It's cool to see that they're recognizing community members.
A good amount too. They had a variety of rewards, more
Yeah,
than 3, they had a good amount. Again, he was creator of the year, finding ways to expand outside of the normal with, JavaScript. And yeah, I think that's awesome. The DevLink thing is, I think if they find a way to like crack that with React components and be able to have like a good two-way React, like I think that's really big. But yeah, it could be interesting for sure. Let's get into our community segment where we have a
yeah,
couple of things. One of our good friends, Adrian Ruiz, is switching his bubble agency to almost like a holding company, right? And so that's something that you and I have explored with our agency of like, okay, we're really good at building apps for other people. Why not just build them for ourselves, right? And there's pros and cons with that. Maybe we could just discuss some of the pros and cons, like 2 or 3 of them, and then we'll go on to the next one. But I think the first thing is the pro is we could spin these up, these businesses up quickly in a
yeah,
great way and service them, which is awesome. The downside is you need to operate and market them.
yeah. Yeah, I mean they're two different kind of competing values being in the agency world versus the holdco. The holdco is cool. One of the challenges I think come up with too many small projects feels like lots of distractions and it's hard to get things up and running. We've seen other holdcos. I follow along with the Exo Capital folks. They have a nice distributed team, but they start buying bigger projects because they can assign dedicated resources to it. And if I follow the Lenny Rachinsky, I think that's how you say his name. His marketplace is his product, yeah, his product podcast, and they talk about at Ramp how they build product by like isolating the team without the distractions. And
Mhm.
so the developers and the team building a new product or a new feature, they're kind of in their own world. In the holdco model, it becomes a little more challenging to split attention until you get to a certain stage or a certain scale to really let them run, or they're running on their own, right? You see like Peter
Yeah.
Levels runs a bunch of things by himself to really high scale, but sometimes you kind of need to let it let it get to a size first.
Yeah, one of the things that intrigues me is almost like a hybrid model where we bring like entrepreneurs and residents, and it's like, okay, we're gonna build this, you're gonna operate it. And
Mhm.
if we partner with like 3 or 4 different entrepreneurs, and it's like we get the equity in this, they get equity, and it's like we're gonna build it, we're gonna service it in a limited fashion, and then they go off and operate and market it, and we have a shared stake in it. That way you can kind of stay focused on the building and let operator do the operating and the marketing of it all. I think that might be a good hybrid between the 2.
Yeah, yeah, that could definitely work. A little bit more private equity kind of size, but again, it depends on the size of the business you're building or buying to get to a point where you can't. There is enough money coming in from the business that you can hire an operator.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they get equity and they get cash, and so it is a different model than trying to build it all yourself. Yeah,
Yeah. And then next up, and the last thing of the day for us is the No Code Summit is happening right now in Paris. Looks unbelievable. It really does. I'm so
yeah,
happy that
it's
this is
just
happening.
FOMO. Yeah,
It's grown significantly since
yeah.
last year. Major FOMO. I will
Oh
be there
yeah.
next year. I regret not taking it seriously enough. Like, freaking 3 weeks ago, I'm like, "Shoot, this is, like, a real thing, this is happening. How do I speak there?" Like, right? Like, how
Yeah,
do I
yeah, yeah. How
become a
do I
speaker
get
there?
there? Yeah.
And I messaged them, they're like, "Bro, we're booked." We're like, "You're messaging us after we announced the schedule." Yeah, something I really wanna do next year is go there with all these tools, hopefully speak there and, be a part of that ecosystem because it's just growing so rapidly, and I love that it's the entire no-code ecosystem and all these other players, right? And so it looks like a blast. Maybe next week on This Week in No Code, we could talk more about that, bring in some of the people that went there, talk about their experiences, kind of like what we just did with Keegan and talk about his experience with Webflow
Mhm.
conference.
Yeah, I if it wasn't for the wedding coming up, I'd have a more serious consideration this year. I'm
Yeah.
going to be missing BubbleCon as well. Just not the right month for me to go travel to these no-code conferences.
Yeah.
But next year, it'll be exciting to see. I think, Keegan talks about going to Webflow conference and meeting his Twitter friends IRL. And that's, there's so much between Slack channels and Twitter that we don't get to meet people. But we've been fortunate, to have some meetups, which has been cool as well.
Hmm.
But nothing like a full conference. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. So I think that's it for this week in No Code. We had a jam-packed session, lots of news, another great interview with Keegan. Really excited about all of this and where this industry is going. Make sure you tune in next week for even more news of where we're going, more in-depth interviews with experts and founders and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, this is JJ and David signing off for this week in
All
No
right.
Code.